I've never been the kind of husband who forgets birthdays. In 15 years of marriage, I'd always made sure Sarah's day felt special. Flowers, dinner, a small gift wrapped with care. It wasn't about money. It was about effort, about showing her that she still mattered. But this year felt different long before it arrived. We'd been distant for months. Conversations had turned into logistics. Who'd pick up groceries when the bills were due, whether we had milk for the morning. Our laughter, once constant, had gone quiet. Still, I held on to hope that maybe her birthday could be a bridge, a reminder of us before everything went cold. A week before the day, I asked her casually over dinner, "Hey, what do you want for your birthday this year?" She didn't even look up from her phone. "Honestly, I just want to be left alone." She said it so simply, like she was talking about needing a nap, not rejecting her husband. But the tone, flat, unbothered, cut through me. I waited for her to smile, to say she was joking. She didn't. She scrolled, sighed, and went back to her screen like I wasn't even there. That night I lay awake thinking about how long it had been since she'd really looked at me. Not looked through me, but at me. The woman who once used to rest her head on my chest now slept with her back turned. The glow of her phone lighting her face until she fell asleep. I used to wonder if I had done something wrong. That night I stopped wondering. I just accepted that maybe love had left the room quietly, and we were both pretending not to notice. Her birthday came on a Friday. I woke up early, made her coffee just the way she liked it, oat milk, no sugar, and placed it by her bedside. She didn't say thank you. Just a tired morning before scrolling through her messages. I stood there for a second, waiting for a flicker of warmth, but it never came. I left the house that morning feeling like a ghost walking through his own life. All day, I kept replaying her words, "Leave me alone." Maybe she didn't mean it. Maybe it was just stress or burnout or something I'd said months ago. But when I came home that evening, I saw her dressed up, not for dinner with me, but for a night out with her friends. She smiled when one of them texted, something I hadn't seen in weeks. I asked if she wanted to at least have a slice of cake before she left. She hesitated, then said softly, "Maybe tomorrow. I just need a night to myself, that was it. No hug, no thank you for understanding. Just the sound of the door closing behind her." I sat on the couch that night staring at the empty coffee cup on the counter. That small gesture had felt like my last try, a quiet, desperate attempt to connect. And now it felt meaningless. Somewhere between love and routine, we had stopped being partners and turned into polite strangers sharing walls. When she came home past midnight, she didn't even notice I was awake. She went straight to bed. Her perfume lingered in the air, mixed with the faint smell of wine. I remember thinking, she's never felt so far away, yet she's just a few feet from me. The next morning I got up early again, but this time there was no coffee, no breakfast. Just silence. I packed a small bag, a few shirts, my wallet, a framed photo from years ago when we were happy. I looked at that picture for a long time. We looked young, alive, sure of each other. I wondered when exactly that version of us had died. Before I walked out the door, I left a small note on the kitchen counter. Nothing dramatic, no anger or accusations. Just a few words. "You said you wanted to be left alone. I'm giving you what you asked for. Take care." Then I closed the door gently behind me and drove away without a destination in mind. For the first few hours, it didn't feel real. It felt like I was just going for a drive to clear my head. But as miles passed and the city faded in my rearview mirror, something inside me loosened. Not relief, not sadness, just emptiness. The kind that comes when you realize the fight is truly over. I didn't have a plan when I left. I just drove. The roads blurred into long, empty stretches of asphalt. I stopped at a small diner 2 towns over, ordered black coffee, and sat by the window watching strangers live their ordinary lives. Couples laughing, kids fighting over pancakes, a man reading his newspaper alone. For the first time in years, I was one of those strangers too. Unanchored, invisible. The waitress refilled my cup and smiled politely. "Rough morning?" she asked. I managed a small laugh. Something like that. It wasn't her concern, and I didn't want to turn my pain into a story for someone else's sympathy. So I just said thank you and left her a big tip. Maybe kindness could still exist in small gestures even if love had stopped making sense. That night I found a cheap motel off the highway. The kind of place where silence hums through thin walls and the air smells faintly of old carpet and cigarette smoke. I laid on the bed staring at the ceiling fan, wondering if Sarah had even noticed I was gone yet. Maybe she felt relief. Maybe she was still out with her friends, laughing like nothing had changed. The thought should have made me angry. It didn't. I was past anger. I was just tired. On the third day, my phone started buzzing. First a few texts, then missed calls. All from her. Where are you? This isn't funny. At least tell me you're safe. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but because I had nothing left to say that wouldn't sound like an accusation. For 15 years, I had tried to explain what was missing between us. She had called it overthinking. When I stopped talking, she called it distance. Either way, I couldn't win. By the 5th day, she sent a longer message. I didn't mean it, you know. When I said I wanted to be alone, I just needed space. Not for you to disappear. I read it twice, maybe 3 times. Every word sounded right but felt wrong, like a bandage over a wound that had already turned into a scar. Sometimes I didn't mean it comes too late. You can't ask someone to vanish and then panic when they actually do. That evening I drove back toward the city, not to return, just to see if the place that once held my life still felt like mine. I parked near our street, lights glowing in the windows, cars neatly lined in driveways. Everything looked the same, but I felt like an intruder. Through the front window, I saw her moving around, pacing, maybe crying. I didn't go in. I just sat there in the car for a while, listening to the sound of my own breathing, and realized I had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Love doesn't always end in a fight. Sometimes it just fades quietly, replaced by exhaustion and silence. That's what happened to us. We didn't break apart suddenly. We eroded piece by piece until one day there was nothing left to hold on to. I checked into a small apartment a few weeks later. Nothing fancy, just a clean space with a decent view of the river. I started running in the mornings, cooking for myself, learning to live without waiting for someone else's approval. Loneliness still hit sometimes, like waves you can't predict. But under that loneliness was something steadier. Peace. Sarah reached out a few times after that. She wanted to talk, maybe even start fresh. I think she expected me to come back once the dust settled. But the thing about leaving is that once you truly do, you stop wanting to be where you're not seen. One night, she sent one final message. You could have fought for me. I stared at that text for a long time before replying. I did. You just never noticed. After that, silence again. The kind that isn't heavy anymore, just final. Months passed. Her birthday came around once more. I remembered it out of habit. But this time, instead of wondering what to get her, I went for a walk by the river. The air was cold, the sky pale with winter light. I thought about all the birthdays we'd shared, the laughter, the promises, the quiet decay that followed. And then I smiled. Not because it didn't hurt anymore, but because I finally understood. Sometimes when someone asks to be left alone, they're really testing if you'll stay. Other times they mean it. The hardest part is learning which one it was and accepting it without bitterness. Sarah got what she asked for. And I got what I didn't know I needed. Distance, clarity, and a version of peace that doesn't depend on anyone else's permission. Maybe that's what love becomes in the end. Not fireworks or forever, but the courage to walk away when staying means losing yourself.